Now, the reason I put that definition up to start the video off is because we're about to witness a Moorish American do exactly what that definition states. He is about to conflate two separate religions and try and act as if they are one and the same, which is in error. He is going to try to conflate Moorish Americans' religion of Islamism with regular Mohammedan Islam. Now, the purpose of this Moorish Americans video is to show and prove that the word Muslim and Muslim are one and the same. And he actually does prove that the two words Muslim and Muslim are one and the same. The thing that he fails to realize is that Moorish American, when he's reading those definitions of Muslim and Muslim, those definitions are not referring to Moorish Americans and Moorish Americans' version of Islam, which they call Islamism. So, in essence, he is trying to he will be conflating two separate religions and trying to morph them into one and act as if those definitions are referring to Moorish Americans' version of Islam, which is 100% in error. Now, I'm not sure if he is conflating the two on purpose or if he's doing it in his ignorance. I'm not sure. So I'm just here to clear it up straight off the bat that when reading a definition of Muslim or Muslim, it is not referring to Moorish Americans' version of Islam, Islamism. The definitions are referring to Mohammedan Islam, Muslims that follow the Mohammedan faith, Muslims that believe that the Prophet Muhammad was the last and final prophet, Muslims that read the Holy Quran of Mecca. Now, just because Noble Drew Ali came along and made a separate religion and called it Islam doesn't mean that it's actually Islam. In Islam, you must follow certain principles, and those principles are called the 5 pillars of Islam. Moorish Americans do not follow the 5 pillars of Islam, so they are not Muslims in that sense. Just because somebody came along and created a religion and said, yes, we're Muslims, doesn't make you a Muslim. I'm 5'6" when I get measured. I can say that I'm 6'5", but that doesn't really make me 6'5", because when I get measured, I will only be 5'7". So this is what Noble Drew Ali came along and did. He proclaimed himself a prophet, which off the bat automatically goes against the Islamic faith, because, as I stated, Muhammad was the last and final prophet of Islam. So anything outside of that automatically makes you a non-Muslim. Now, as I stated, I'm not sure if this Moorish American understands that, but he's out here teaching. So you shouldn't be out here teaching false information and trying to conflate things when you're reading definitions in the dictionary, because the definitions that you're reading do not refer to Moorish Americans.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Excuse me, sir. I don't mean to interrupt you so early in the video, but Assalamu alaikum is not your greeting. Your greeting is Islam. So don't do it. Please don't do it.
Islam, peace, what's happening, all of that. I am Rami Salaam, man. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. Today's more science lesson, Muslims or Muslims. Oh my goodness, we got one today.
Okay, so this should be pretty interesting. Muslims or Muslims? What are they called? Muslims or Muslims? Let's see what this Moorish gentleman, let's see what information he brings to us. And if there's anything that needs to be critiqued or said, I will interject when necessary.
Shout out to all the Muslim brothers and sisters out there. May peace and blessings be upon you and your family and your loved ones. And peace and blessings be upon anyone watching this right now. Much love to you and yours. Even if you aren't Muslim, even if you aren't Moorish, it's all love. Love is the key today. Love is the key. As Moorish Americans, really as human beings, man, you know, we shouldn't just believe what people say just because someone tells us. You know what I mean? We should look into things, investigate these things so we can know for ourselves. Now, just a little preface. Peace, 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 family, peace. So just to preface what's going on, some years back, actually, it was a Moorish American brother that I was really cool with and building with. That was really into, you know, the Circle 7 Quran and the teachings of Noble Drew Ali. He had made a statement to me that, and just so we're clear, this is the Quran that was brought to us by way of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, through the angel Gabriel. And this is a version of the Circle 7 Quran that was prepared for us by Noble Drew Ali. And now this Moorish brother that I was speaking to some years back, he was like, you know, I got my Quran from Noble Drew Ali. What do I need to read the Quran by Muhammad for? That's for those pale air. I don't know if he said pale airs, but he was like, that's for those, you know, Muslim brothers over there. I'm a Muslim, you know what I mean? And I've heard that sentiment or that mentality echoed by other Moorish Americans and other Moors for some years now, that there's a difference between a Muslim and a Muslim, you know what I mean? And that, you know, the brothers and sisters over there in the East, in the Middle East, or, you know, Arabia, the Muslim countries over on that side, that those are Muslims, you know, but we Moors, we're Muslims. So, you know, we're different. That's why we have our Quran and they have theirs.
Rami, now I know where you're going with this. And unfortunately, what you just explained that the brother said that you were speaking to is correct. Whether the Muslim or Muslim thing is correct, that part I'm not going to agree on, but there is a clear difference between Muslims and what Moorish Americans call themselves Muslims. There is a clear difference. It is two different religions. So in that respect, the Moorish brother that you are speaking about is right. So I can already see where you're about to go with this video. You're about to try to defend the whole Muslims versus Muslim things and try to connect them to be one, when in actuality they're two different religions. They have two different religious books and other big starch differences that you yourself should know, being a historian. Now, you don't necessarily have to know this because you're a Muslim, or I'm going to say a real Muslim, because if you were a real Muslim, you would definitely know that the Moorish Americans that are running around calling themselves Muslims versus Muslim people that follow the religious faith of Muhammad versus the Muslims that call themselves Muslims that follow the religion of Noble Drew Ali, Now, I'm not calling him Prophet Noble Drew Ali purposely, because in my belief, he is not a prophet. Now, just to give you a quick little backstory on myself, I'm not going to make this long and drawn out. I was born into the Islamic religion. And in the Islamic religion, there is no prophet Noble Drew Ali. So you will never hear me referring to him as a prophet. In the Islamic religion, the last prophet is Prophet Muhammad. Now, there were other prophets before Muhammad. They recognized Jesus and a bunch of other prophets. But the last and final prophet that sealed the fate of the prophets is Prophet Muhammad. So to call another man a prophet, as you guys do, calling Noble Drew Ali a prophet, you guys automatically would never be considered Muslims. There are about 2 billion Muslims on the planet, and none of them would consider you guys, Moorish Americans that follow Noble Drew Ali, they would never consider you guys Muslims or brothers in their religion, because you're not. You believe somebody else to be a prophet. You believe Noble Drew Ali is a prophet after Muhammad, and in the Islamic faith, there is no prophet after Muhammad. Point blank, period. So in actuality, what the Moorish brother said to you is actually correct. Muslims and Moorish Americans that call themselves Muslims are separate. So let's see how you try to conflate the two religions and pull them together. And I'm just want to see this. Now, as I stated, in the Islamic faith, the last prophet is Prophet Muhammad. So there is no prophets after Prophet Muhammad, as stated in the Quran, Surah 33, verse 40. There is no prophet after Prophet Muhammad. So the mere fact that you guys believe in a Prophet Noble Drew Ali automatically makes you guys non-Muslims. You are not Muslims of the Mohammedan faith. Now let's jump into the Holy Quran of Mecca, and let's see what it says about the last prophet, Prophet Muhammad. Okay, so what we have here are the 5 pillars of Islam. These 5 pillars are what makes one a Muslim. You have to practice these 5 pillars. Now, the first one is to profess your faith. Take your Shahada. Now, if you're born into the religion, then you don't have to take a Shahada. But an outsider who was, let's say, born a Christian, in order to become a Muslim, you have to profess your faith and take a Shahada. The next one is prayer. You pray 5 times a day. The next one is almsgiving. Give to charities, or you can give to the mosque that you go to. The next one is fasting during the month of Ramadan. And the next one is the pilgrimage, taking the pilgrimage to Mecca. None of these 5 pillars Moorish Americans practice, because they are not Muslims. Now, just because someone says I'm a Muslim, that doesn't make you a Muslim. Just as I stated earlier, I'm 5'7", right, when I measured. Now I can say that I'm 6'5", but that doesn't really make me 6'5", because when I get measured, I will only be 5'7". So just saying you're a Muslim doesn't make you a Muslim. You have to follow these 5 pillars. And Moorish Americans do not follow any of these 5 pillars, because their version of Islam, which they call Islamism, which was brought to them by their quote unquote prophet Noble Jew Ali, is totally different. He created a separate, distinct religious group. You guys go to the Moorish Science Temple of America to do your religious ceremonial acts. Muslims don't go to the Moorish Science Temple of America. You guys don't fast during the month of Ramadan. Y'all don't celebrate the month of Ramadan. You guys don't do a pilgrimage to Mecca. You guys don't follow any of the 5 pillars of Islam. You guys are not Muslims. Now, what Rami here is about to do, he is about to try to conflate the two religions because of definitions in the dictionary and because they call themselves Muslims. But as I said, just because they call themselves Muslims doesn't make them Muslims. And once again, to be a Muslim, you have to practice these 5 pillars. Okay? Now, you can't just say, I'm a Muslim, and boom, you're a Muslim. Or Noble Jew Ali just came and caused a bunch of confusion. And this confusion is evident because Rami here, he's about to try and conflate the two religions as if they are one, when everyone knows that they are not. Muslims do not recognize Moorish Americans as brothers in the faith, because their faith is totally different. Once they accepted Noble Jew Ali as a prophet, that automatically puts them on the outside of being a Muslim, because the last prophet of Islam was Muhammad, and that is non-debatable.
I never really agree with that, for a bunch of different reasons. One, because the Circle 7 Quran, it was prepared for us by Noble Drew Ali, states that we're to honor all true and divine prophets. It has Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's name, on the nationality card. So it didn't make sense to me that there would be Moors that are trying to disassociate themselves away from Prophet Muhammad in the Quran. But I never, for whatever reason, I never focused in on, focused in on the science behind the word, and really dig deep and did some research into the science behind the word. And that's what I wanted to bring forth today, is I wanted to bring forth some science, some more science, if you will. You know what I mean? Because that's key. You know what I mean? Man knows not by being told. We can't just believe what people say. Just because someone says, oh, well, we're Muslims, we don't have nothing to do with Muslims. And Noble Drew Ali never called us Muslims. So, we don't have nothing to do with the Quran and those Muslim brothers, because we're Muslims. See, people can tell you that. But don't believe it just because someone with the fez and they're saying Islam and they talking about Noble Drew Ali. Don't believe it just because someone says it. All right? Because we talking about the science now. And now you Moors know now. Come on now. Somebody out there, Islam. They talking about do the etymology, right? Do the etymology. Look into the science of the word. The origins of the word. Well, let's get into this etymology. Okay? This is the Barnhart Dictionary of Etymology, the core vocabulary of standard English. But this etymology dictionary gives us a breakdown. And here on page 679, and I'm going to just so you can see, but I encourage you to look it up for yourself. I don't know if you can see that in there. It says Muslim or Muslim. Let me repeat that. It says Muslim or Muslim. But wait, there's more. Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Muslim or Muslim, a noun, believer in the religion based on the teachings of Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the Quran. In 1615, borrowed as Muslim, a transliteration from Arabic. Hold on. What is a transliteration, Rami? What are you talking about? Well, let's go to the let's look it up. Transliteration. And that is spelled, if you're watching and listening, transliteration is spelled transliteration. Transliteration. One more time. transliteration. 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 And this is from vocabulary.com. Transliteration is the process of transferring a word from the alphabet of one language to another. Again, transliteration is the process of transferring a word from the alphabet of one language to another. For example, the word Muslim is an Arabic word. To transfer it to another language, such as English, some changes happened to the word, and it changed from Muslim to Muslim. Make sense? Or did it go reverse? No, yeah. Muslim to Muslim. Make sense? Arabic to English. Muslim, Muslim. Let me continue reading. Borrowed as Muslim, a transliteration from Arabic, a believer in the Mohammedan faith. Literally, one who professes submission or submits to the faith. From the root Islama, he resigned, see Islam. So, if you wasn't clear, Moors, is it Muslim? Are we Muslim or Muslim? What's the difference? It's no difference. Muslim and Muslim mean the same thing. One that submits their will to the Creator.
Okay, so I took the liberty of getting my own definition of Muslim or Muslim from a similar etymology dictionary. It's also a Barnhart etymology dictionary, but it's a different edition than what Rami is reading. Now, as you can see what it says in the definition, I'm just going to start with a believer in the Mohammedan faith. Now, what Brother Rami is doing, he is overlooking that very sentence, a believer in the Mohammedan faith. Rami, you and your Moorish Americans are not believers in the Mohammedan faith. So this definition is not referring to you Moorish Americans. Just because Noble Jew Ali made his new religion, Islamism, and said that you guys were Muslims doesn't mean that you are actually Muslim. You do not practice the Mohammedan faith. You do not practice the 5 pillars of Islam. You guys did not take your Shahada. You are not Muslims or Muslims. So for you to say Moors, or if you're still wondering if are we Muslims or are we Muslims, it's the same. Yes, technically Muslim and Muslims are the same. The problem here is that when talking about Muslim or Muslims, when we read these definitions, they are not referring to you Moorish Americans, because you guys are not believers in the Mohammedan faith. Now, you cannot overlook that. What you're doing, Rami, is you're trying to conflate the two religions as if they're the same, and you are in error. You cannot conflate things like that and just twist it. And if you're a teacher, what you're doing is you're teaching your followers the wrong thing. You're giving them the wrong message because you are not clear on what you are teaching. You did not fully do your studies, because after reading this definition, I don't see how you can just look over the very sentence, a believer in the Mohammedan faith, and still try to push that this definition is referring to you Moorish Americans when it clearly is not. You guys believe in the Noble Jew Ali faith, in Islamism. The Moorish Science Temple is your church, okay? The Muslims that is being referred to here do not go to the Moorish Science Temple of America. They do not believe in a Noble Jew Ali, because their prophet is Muhammad, hence Mohammedan faith. In the Islamic religion, the last of the prophets is Prophet Muhammad, and there are no prophets after Muhammad. So this mere fact that you guys believe in a prophet, in a quote-unquote prophet, Noble Jew Ali, already puts you on the outside of the real Islamic religion. You guys are not believers in the Mohammedan faith. It is impossible for you to be, okay? The last prophet of Islam is Prophet Muhammad. Noble Jew Ali came around and made a separate religion, okay? Now, that separate religion is Islamism. You guys have your circum-7 Quran. This definition is not referring to you guys. So trying to conflate the two is, you're being disingenuous, because you're a bright guy, okay? So I know you know what the difference is. You're just trying to prove a point. Now, the point of your video was to study on whether Muslim or Moslem are the same things, and to that effect, Muslim and Moslem are the same. That part we can agree on. But at the same time, this definition that you're reading from, you're overlooking the very simple sentence of where it says a believer in the Mohammedan faith. You guys are not believers in the Mohammedan faith. You guys believe in Noble Jew Ali's faith, the faith that he brought in the 1920s. This definition right here is not referring to you guys. So you are, the fact that you are conflating the two, you need to keep studying, and you need to stop teaching falsehoods, because that is what you're doing. You're teaching your people that the two religions are one and the same when they are clearly not. You are in error. There is no way that the Moorish Science Temple religion and the true religion of Islam, the Mohammedan faith, are the same. There is no way they're the same. You guys believe in a prophet. Your prophet is Noble Jew Ali. Islamic people of the Mohammedan faith do not believe in a Noble Jew Ali. Their prophet and their last prophet is Prophet Muhammad, and it states that in the Holy Quran of Mecca, Surah 33, verse 40, that I have already shown. So you stop conflating the two religions. That is not right. You are miseducating people, and it's foul. All you're doing is causing more confusion. It's bad enough that Noble Jew Ali came along with this other religion and calling it Islam. All he did was confuse, and what you're doing is perpetuating the confusion. This is 2022, and you are perpetuating the confusion. We are in a day and age of technology. So all it takes is to do some quick studying on the internet, or get into the books. You have books in your house, but what do the books even matter if you're gonna read something and then gloss over a whole sentence in a paragraph? You are glossing over a believer in the Mohammedan faith. You guys are not believers in the Mohammedan faith. You guys are believers in Prophet Noble Jew Ali's teachings, in his religion. He created a separate religion. He incorporated the Moorish Science Temple as a religious corporation. Okay? If you guys were the same as the true Islamic faith, there would have been no reason for him to make a Moorish Science Temple of America as your place of worship. You guys would just go to the mosque that any other Muslims go to. But no, he created a separate organization. He deemed himself the prophet. So like I said, even if he was a Muslim prior to him creating his own religion, once he deemed himself a prophet, he has broken all the rules of Islam, and he is not a Muslim, he is not a Muslim anymore. He is a sinner. Okay? He's not a Muslim, and his followers sure aren't Muslims because they're following him. To his followers, he is the prophet. Okay? And Islam, there is no other prophet after Muhammad. It is plain and simple. Surah 30, verse 40. Okay? It clearly states it. So, Rami, please stop conflating the two religions, because you are in error when you do that, and you are teaching falsehoods. And as I said before, just because you guys call yourselves Muslims, or Noble Jew Ali called you guys Muslims, doesn't mean that you guys are actually Muslims. You guys do not practice the Mohammedan faith. That's like me walking into a shoe store and my shoe size is size 8. But when I go into the shoe store, I tell them I wear size 12. When they measure my foot, they're going to see that I'm really a size 8. Now, that is the same with you guys. You guys can say you're Muslims, but then when you really look into everything, we can see that you guys follow a prophet other than Muhammad, which is blasphemous. You guys do not practice the 5 pillars of Islam. So you guys aren't Muslims. Okay? Just because you say that you're Muslims doesn't mean that you're a Muslim. And this definition is referring to Muslims of the Mohammedan that follow the Mohammedan faith. And that is not you guys. You guys do not follow the Mohammedan faith. Because to follow the Mohammedan faith, you have to, one, take a shahada. You have to practice zakat. Okay, you have to fast during Ramadan. You have to take a pilgrimage to Mecca. You guys don't do that. You have to pray 5 times a day. You guys do none of those things. So you guys are not the Muslims that are being referred to in this definition. And it is that simple. Like I said, I can say I'm really 5'7". I can tell you that I'm 6'5". Doesn't mean that I'm really 6'5". When I get measured, you'll see that I'm really 5'7". Like, a person can say anything, but if they're not really practicing it, then it means nothing. Now, you can say you're a Muslim, but that doesn't mean that you're a Muslim that follow and participate and practice the Mohammedan faith. You guys are not that. You guys follow Noble Jew Ali's Islamism, and this definition is not talking about you guys. So the you conflating the two is absolutely bogus. You're doing a disservice to the people that you're trying to teach.
Borrowed as Muslim, a transliteration from Arabic, a believer in the Mohammedan faith. Literally, one who professes submission or submits to the faith. From the root Islama, he resigned, see Islam. So, if you wasn't clear, Moors, is it Muslim? Are we Muslim or Muslim? What's the difference? There's no difference. Muslim and Muslim mean the same thing. One that submits their will to the Creator, Allah. Oh, praise Allah. Praise Allah. Does that make sense?
Okay, so I must interject here. Now, I must say that I really don't have an issue with Rami. He seems like a bright individual. He seems very peaceful. But what he is doing here, he is further confusing people. Now, what he just read is actually correct. There is no difference between Muslim or Muslim, but what he's trying to do is he's trying to infer that because he just read that definition, that now he wants to put the message out to let Moorish Americans know that they are Muslims or Muslims because the words are actually one and the same. The only problem with that is he's wrong, because Moorish Americans are not Muslims or Muslims. I'll say it again. Moorish Americans are not Muslims or Muslims. Based on the definition that he just read, not based on my beliefs or my feelings, based off the definition that he just read, a Muslim or a Muslim is a person who partakes in the Mohammedan faith, the faith of Muhammad, the last prophet of Islam. Moorish Americans do not participate. They are not part of the Mohammedan religion. So that is why they are not Muslims or Muslims. And that is just a fact. There are no Muslims in the world. Muslims that practice the Islamic faith of Muhammad, they do not consider Moorish Americans brothers in religions with them, because they are not. Moorish Americans believe in a prophet, Noble Drew Ali. That is their prophet. Noble Drew Ali is not the prophet of the people who participate in the Mohammedan faith. No. The last prophet in Islam is Prophet Muhammad. Now, this is the issue with what Noble Drew Ali did. He created a bunch of confusion, and he just started a religious group. He named the group Muslims or whatever. They're Moorish American Muslims. They practice Islamism. People that participate in the Islamic faith, they don't call it Islamism. It is just Islam. Okay? So, as I stated, Noble Drew Ali, he came in and he started a bunch of confusion with this religious organization that he started. Now, the reason I say he started confusion is because he called the people that would come and join his religion Muslims or Muslims, when in fact they are neither, because they do not follow the Mohammedan faith. They are not Muslims. They are not Muslims. Even that definition that Rami, that you just read, it makes no mention of a Noble Drew Ali. It doesn't say one who adheres to the religion of Noble Drew Ali. No, it says the Mohammedan faith. You guys, Moorish Americans, are not participating in the Mohammedan faith. You guys do not celebrate Ramadan. You guys do not pray 5 times a day facing to the east. Okay? You guys do not go to Juma every Friday. You guys go to the Moorish Science Temple. You guys do not read the Holy Quran of Mecca, because Noble Drew Ali made a circumcised Quran. So this is why I say he caused a bunch of confusion, because now we got individuals like you, and like I said, I have no real issue with you, but Noble Drew Ali caused this confusion, so now we have individuals like you trying to clear up issues on the Muslim versus Muslim thing when you guys are neither. You guys are not Muslims or Muslims. According to the definition that you just read, it clearly states that a Muslim or a Muslim is somebody who partakes in the Mohammedan faith. And Moorish Americans do not participate in the Mohammedan faith. Moorish Americans' prophet is Noble Drew Ali. Their prophet is not Muhammad, hence Mohammedan faith. So all you're doing, Rami, is further confusing people because Moorish Americans are not Muslims or Muslims. When we talk about the Islamic faith, they do not read out of a circumcised Quran. They read out of the Holy Quran of Mecca. Muslims or Muslims, the ones that follow the Mohammedan faith, their last prophet is Muhammad. They do not call anyone else a prophet after Muhammad. So they would not consider Noble Drew Ali a prophet. That is blasphemy. That is blasphemy. Muslims do not respect you guys that call yourselves Moorish Americans. You are not brothers in faith with them. As I said, you guys don't participate in Ramadan. You guys don't pray 5 times a day. You guys don't read the Holy Quran of Mecca. And you guys' prophet is Noble Drew Ali, and that is blasphemy in the Islamic faith. The last prophet is Prophet Muhammad. There is no prophet after that. So if you believe in a prophet after the Prophet Muhammad, that's an automatic statement. That's a line drawn in the sand. That statement is saying that you guys are not Muslims or Muslims. If you believe in a prophet that came after Prophet Muhammad, you are not a Muslim or a Muslim. And the definition that you just read clearly states a Muslim or Muslim is somebody who participates in the Mohammedan faith. It makes no mention of a Noble Drew Ali. Why is that? Why doesn't the definition that you just read say a Muslim or Muslim is somebody who participates in Prophet Noble Drew Ali's religion? You know why? Because that's not a thing. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, Rami, but you guys, you Moorish Americans, are not Muslims, nor are you guys Muslims. So please stop causing more confusion. All you're doing is muddying up the water. You are confusing your people even further.
Does that make sense to everybody so far? That Muslim and Muslim, they're not two different kinds of people. It's not two different words. Muslim and Muslim are the same word. It was just transliterated from Arabic to English. So some of the vowels, the word got changed. As a matter of fact, it goes on to say, here we go. Back to the transliteration definition. Transliteration helps people pronounce words and names in foreign languages. Unlike translation, which tells you the meaning of a word that's written in another language, transliteration only gives you an idea of how the word is pronounced, putting it in a familiar alphabet. It changes the letters from the word's original alphabet to similar sounding letters in a different one. So it's not changing the meaning of the word at all. It's not translating the meaning for you. It's simply changing the letters in the word to help you pronounce the word correctly from the other language. That's what transliteration is. That's the process that happened between Muslim and Muslim. So you understand it's not any difference. So Moors, in particular, Moorish brothers and sisters, if you've been studying this information from Noble Drew Ali and you've seen Masmo in the writings, in the teachings, you see Muslim here, Muslim there. Well, understand that's saying Muslim. Yeah, yeah. So now you gotta all of that Muslim history. Oh yeah, you got to study that. That Muslim culture. Yes, you got to know about it. Yes, because it's all connected. Yes. And let me just put some facts on the record so you're not just believing me, because I don't want you to believe me. You can look it up for yourself, okay? Golden Age of the Moor, Ivan Van Sertima. We're gonna go on down to page 184, and this is in the section by Jose V. Pimenta Bay, Moorish Spain, academic source and foundation for the rise and success of Western European universities in the Middle Ages. And on page 184, Brother Jose Pimenta Bay states, Moorish has even become a synonym for an Arab or Berber, as well as a general term for any and all Muslims. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so now, once again, what Brother Rami is doing, he is conflating. He is using the conflating tactic to connect Moorish Americans in present day to what he just read. Jose Pimenta Bay wrote in Golden Age of the Moor. Now, when I say he is conflating again, what he is doing, he just read what Jose Pimenta Bay, and he is asserting that because Moorish and Moor is a synonym of Muslim. Now, yes, that is true, but the reason he's conflating is because Jose Pimenta Bay is referring to the Moors who invaded Spain. Now, the Moors who invaded Spain, they were Muslims. They practiced the Mohammedan faith. They weren't the Noble Drew Ali Muslims. Noble Drew Ali wasn't in existence. So those Moors, the historical Moors, they were actually Muslims, unlike the Moorish Americans of today. The historical Moors were actually Muslims. They participated in the Mohammedan faith. And yes, Moorish and Moor was a synonym for Muslim. But in today's age, Moorish Americans, just because you're calling yourselves Moor, that doesn't mean that what Jose Pimenta Bay wrote down in that book, he is not referring to you guys, because you guys do not practice the Mohammedan faith. You guys practice Noble Drew Ali's Islamism. What Jose Pimenta Bay was referring to was the historical Moors that were actually practicing the Mohammedan faith. So, Rami, you're trying to conflate historical Moors that practice the Mohammedan faith and current day Moors, Moorish Americans. We know Moorish Americans do not practice the Mohammedan faith. So you're trying to conflate two separate groups of people in error. This is it seems like you're purposely doing this now. It seems like at this point you're purposely trying to miseducate. It's either that or you just don't comprehend the fact that you guys, Moorish Americans, do not practice the Mohammedan faith. So it's either you're being dishonest and sneaky, or you just don't fully comprehend that Moorish Americans don't practice the Mohammedan faith. So in your ignorance, you're conflating. What you're doing is you're further confusing people. Because now you're all happy. Hey, yeah, look, I just read this out of Golden Age of the Moors, and you're taking it out of context. He is not referring, just because you guys now call yourself Moorish or Moor, what Jose Piamenta Bay, he was referring to the historical Moors, the historical Moors who practice the Mohammedan faith, not you Moorish Americans. Just because you Moorish Americans in today's day and age say that you're Muslim or Muslim doesn't mean that you actually are Muslim or Muslim, okay? You have to practice the 5 pillars of Islam to be a Muslim or a Muslim, okay? You guys did not take your Shahada to become a Muslim or Muslim. That's like if I see, just because you call yourself a Muslim doesn't make you a Muslim. If I see a dog walking down the street, I could say that dog is a cat. That doesn't actually mean that the dog is a cat. That just means that I'm calling it by its wrong name. Okay? Just because I call a dog a cat doesn't make it a cat. Okay? Just like you saying that you're a Muslim doesn't actually mean that you're a Muslim. To be a Muslim, you have to practice the 5 pillars of Islam. You have to take your Shahada. You have to give alms, zakat. You have to pray 5 times a day. You have to go to the mosque on Fridays. You have to make your pilgrimage to Mecca. You guys do none of these things. So you guys are not the Muslims that Jose Piamenta Bay is referring to in that passage. So stop trying to conflate Moorish Americans with Moorish Muslims that invaded Spain. You guys are not one and the same. Stop the conflating. You're doing a disservice to your people by doing that.
Golden Age of the Moor, Ivan Van Sertima. We're gonna go on down to page 184, and this is in the section by Jose V. Piamenta Bay, Moor Spain, academic source and foundation for the rise and success of Western European universities in the Middle Ages. And on page 184, Brother Jose Piamenta Bay states, Moorish has even become a synonym for an Arab or Berber, as well as a general term for any and all Muslims. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Now, what Rami here is doing, once again, he is trying to conflate real with imaginary. Now, yes, what Jose Piamenta Bay wrote in that book was actually correct. Muslim and Moor became a synonym because the historical Moors were Muslims of the Mohammedan faith. Now, what he is trying to do is assert that because Moorish Americans call themselves Moors, then that means that they are also Muslims. But no, that is not the case, because Moorish Americans do not practice the Mohammedan faith. Once again, key word, the Mohammedan faith. The faith of the Prophet Muhammad. Their faith, Moorish Americans' faith, is the faith of their quote-unquote prophet, Noble Drew Ali. So there is a difference. And what he is trying to do is conflate the two together. And all he is really doing is causing more confusion. The Moors that Jose Piamenta Bay in that book is writing about, he is writing about the historical Moors who invaded Spain, who were Muslims and part of the Mohammedan faith. And yes, Europeans, because they knew Moors were Muslims, they then made Moor and Muslims synonyms. But just because Moorish Americans now in today's time call themselves Moors, that is not who that quote is speaking to. Now, as I said, he's talking about the Moors who invaded Spain. The Moors that invaded Spain, that was in 711, well before Moorish Americans prophet was born. So those Moors that are being referred to in that passage are Moors that were part of the Mohammedan faith. And they had nothing to do with Noble Drew Ali's faith and religion that he much later on in the early 1900s put together. So what you're trying to do by conflating the historical Moors with Moorish Americans, you conflating these two people is disingenuous, and you know it. Please stop doing that.
So Moor and Moorish was a term that was used as a synonym for Arabs, Berbers, and in general for any and all Muslims or Muslims. Oh my goodness. Can I get Islam? Can I get Islam? Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, praise the Lord. My goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, and then, so let me, just so we clear, see, this was the dictionary, again, the Barnhart Dictionary of Etymology. It makes it clear to us, Muslim and Muslim, the same thing. And then I just wanted to grab a few dictionaries and just read the definition while I'm on here. And then I'm gonna get to, then I'm gonna get to some, I'm real quick, and then I'm gonna get to Noble Drew Ali. You know what I mean? Then I'm gonna get to that right there because it's something in particular that I wanted to read in regards to what he said. Do they have Muslim in this one here? No mosque. So this dictionary is the 1828 American Dictionary of the English Language. And I wanted to see if they had Muslim or Muslim in here. And they don't have Muslim or Muslim. They may have Muhammadan. And that's also something to note in terms of studying the history, is that at a part in time, Muslims were also called Mohammedans, in addition to being called Moors or Moorish. Mohammedan, here we go. See, in here, it has Mohammedan, a follower of Muhammad, the founder of the religion of Arabia and Persia. Wow, that's interesting definition back in 1828. Shout out to Noah Webster. But we understand, Muslims and Muslims understand, that the religion is, or the way of life is Islam.
Now you see what he just did there? The definition in that book doesn't sync up with what he wanted it to be. So he's like, but us Muslims and Muslims, we know the way of life is Islam. Sir, you're suffering from cognitive dissonance. You just read something and you can't agree with it because you thought it should be something else. So you want to now throw your but. So what was the point of pulling out the dictionary if you're just going to disregard the definition? Anyway, come on. So in essence, he's now realizing, after reading that second definition, that Moorish Americans have nothing whatsoever to do with the Muslims that are being described in the dictionary. It took him the second dictionary for him to get it. He clearly didn't get it when he read the definition from the etymology dictionary. He just glimpsed over the fact that it says one that participates in the Mohammedan faith. So that just went over his head. But then when he read the second definition in the Webster's dictionary, now he's like, it clicked. But he's like, yeah, but, us Moorish Americans, we know this or that. Nobody. The information is what it is. The information is correct. The information does not apply to you Moorish Americans because you Moorish Americans are not Muslim or Moslem. You will not find a dictionary who will tie in Moorish Americans with the word Muslim or Moslem. You will not find it.
Muhammadan. Here we go. See, in here, it has Muhammadan, a follower of Muhammad, the founder of the religion of Arabia and Persia. Wow, that's interesting definition back in 1828. Shout out to Noah Webster. But we understand, Muslims and Muslims understand, that the religion is, or the way of life is Islam. And so call ourselves Muslims or Muslims. Random House Dictionary of the English Language, 2nd edition. Let's see what they have in here. Just wanted to get some of these definitions on the record, just so we're clear. Oh, my fault, King Moab. The term Muslim was around with when the Prophet came. He chose Muslim for a reason. Are you sure that the term Muslim was around when the Prophet? And when you say Prophet, are you saying Prophet Muhammad or Prophet Noble Ali?
Now, you heard the question he just asked. He just asked, are you talking about Prophet Muhammad or Prophet Noble Ali? Now, that statement right there clearly lets you know that this man is not a Muslim or Muslim, and he does not follow the Mohammedan faith. Because once again, in regards to being a true Muslim, a Muslim that follows the Mohammedan faith, there are no prophets after Muhammad. Now, you heard him just refer to Noble Jew Ali as a prophet. No Muslim that adheres to the Mohammedan faith would ever call Noble Jew Ali a prophet. And that is because there are no prophets after Muhammad. Muhammad is the seal of the prophets. Surah 33:40. Point blank, period. There are no prophets after Muhammad. And if you believe in a prophet after Muhammad, you are not a Muslim or a Muslim. Now, this is why I say Noble Jew Ali came with his nonsense, and all he did was cause confusion. He called his people Muslims, even though they're really not. He was the prophet, even though he really wasn't. Anybody that follows the true Islam knows that Muhammad was the last prophet. And Muslims, the 2 billion Muslims out there, would never call Noble Jew Ali or acknowledge him as a prophet. That is blasphemy. Now, what Noble Jew Ali did was he came, he called his religion and his people Muslims, which caused confusion. He came and wrote a circumscribed Quran when Islam already had their Quran, so he named his book the same name as theirs. He's calling himself a prophet. All he did was cause confusion, and you still see the confusion to this date in 2022. We have this man, Rami, trying to sit up here and read these dictionaries and try to prove that he and all Moorish Americans are Muslims or Muslims because of the confusion and the nonsense Noble Drew Ali brought. Sorry to burst your bubble, Rami, but you guys, Moorish Americans, are not Muslims, nor are you Muslims. That's it. The Islamic faith do not recognize you guys. You guys do not pray with them. You guys don't celebrate any of their religions. You don't dress like them. You don't speak Arabic. You don't do anything. You don't do anything that they do. So you are not Muslims, nor are you Muslims.
Just to be clear, Muslim, 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 Muslim. Here we go. So, and this is the Random House Dictionary of the English language. Muslim, it don't even have anything. All it says is Muslim. It don't even have nothing explaining it. It just Muslim and then Muslim right underneath it. And then Muslimism, the Muslim religion, Islam, Muslim plus ism. So Random House Dictionary made it real clear. And then I just wanted to check Muslim on this side. Muslim. Of or pertaining to the religion, law, or civilization of Islam, an adherent of Islam. Number 3, it says see black Muslim, and then also Muslim or Muslim. A person who submits, see Islam. And I encourage you all to look into the definitions yourself. Merriam-Webster.com. I looked up Muslim. Definition of Muslim: formerly common but now old-fashioned, increasingly rare, and sometimes offensive variant of Muslim. That was Merriam-Webster.com. TheFreeDictionary.com. Muslim, variant of Muslim. And the variant comes from the transliteration of the word from Arabic to English. That's the only variance that's going on with the word Muslim and Muslim. Not two different words meaning two different things. You know, the word was just transliterated from Arabic to English.
Now that's correct, but it still isn't referring to you Moorish Americans, because you Moorish Americans do not participate in the Mohammedan faith.
The Britannica.com, Muslim, variant spelling of Muslim. That's it. Just a variant spelling. And then, so now let me get to Noble Drew Ali's teachings real quick. Real quick. Oh, okay, I got you. So the term Muslim was around when Noble Drew Ali came, but he chose to use the term Muslim. And you're asking for a reason. Do I know why? Well, no, I don't know the particular reason. Did he state the reason anywhere, or what is your take on that, King Moab? But while we get to that, and excuse me, man, I gotta blow my nose. While we get to that, though, I wanted to. Did I drop that link in there for you? Yeah. There is some Moorish literature that I'm going to read from. And the link that I dropped is a collection of articles and writings known as Moorish literature. And one of them, in number 35, or part 35 of the Moorish literature, it's a letter from Noble Drew Ali titled Professor Drew. I just wanted to highlight this. Professor Drew, I am a Muslim. That's Noble Drew Ali saying, I am a Muslim.
Okay, but just because he says I am a Muslim doesn't mean that he is really a Muslim. The man called himself Prophet Noble Drew Ali. It is written in the Circle 7 Quran. He calls himself a prophet. So if you're calling yourself a prophet, then you are not a Muslim or a Muslim. You are not someone who adheres to the Mohammedan faith. Because once again, in the Mohammedan faith, the last prophet was Muhammad. So for you to then turn around and call yourself a prophet and create your own religion that already puts you on the outside of the Mohammedan faith. You are not a Muslim or a Muslim anymore. You cannot be part of that religion if you are considering yourself to be a prophet, and now you're gaining followers behind this. You're creating your own temples. You're creating your own literature. The only literature that Muslims or Muslims read is the Quran, the Holy Quran of Mecca, and what they call the teachings of Muhammad, which is the Sunnah or the Hadiths. Those are the only things, the only literature that Muslims or Muslims or someone who is an adherent of the Mohammedan faith read. They only read the Quran, the Holy Quran of Mecca, or the Hadiths, the sayings and doings of Prophet Muhammad. So once again, Noble Ali was not a Muslim nor a Muslim. He considered himself a prophet. He called himself a prophet. Once he did that, he is not a Muslim nor a Muslim. As I stated before, there are about 2 billion Muslims on the planet. If you ask any of those 2 billion Muslims, do they consider Moorish Americans that follow quote unquote Prophet Noble Ali? If you ask them, are those guys Muslims? All 2 billion would say no, they are not our brothers in our faith.
Yes, indeed. Read it again. Professor Drew, number 35, Moorish Literature. See for yourself. Professor Drew, the Egyptian adept student, 181 Warren Street, Newark, New Jersey. I am a Muslim.
Okay, so it doesn't matter that Noble Drew Ali in his writing said that he is a Muslim. That does not matter. To be a Muslim or Muslim, you have to actually practice it. You have to practice the 5 pillars of Islam. Okay? It's not just as simple as saying, I'm a Muslim or Muslim, and now you're an actual Muslim or Muslim. That is not how it works. If you are not born into the religion, you have to take what is called a Shahada to become a Muslim or Muslim. And after that, you then have to practice the 5 pillars of Islam. Now, just because Moorish Americans say that they're Muslims, doesn't make them Muslims or Muslims. You have to practice the religion. You have to partake in it. You have to fast during Ramadan. Okay, you don't eat pork. You have to go to the mosque every Friday. Now, that's another thing. Moorish Americans don't go to the mosque. They have their own mosque, the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Moorish Science Temple of America is recognized as a religious entity, and that religion is separate from Islam. It is not the same. You guys wear your fez hat as your hat of choice. Muslims do not wear a fez hat. Okay, when you go to the mosque on Friday, if you walk in there with a fez hat, they're going to tell you to take it off. Okay, you can ask Sabir Bey. Sabir Bey will attest to that. He said that when he went to the mosque when he was in Morocco, they asked him to take his fez hat off because that is not a hat of Muslims nor Muslims. Muslims wear kufis. That's it, or turbans. They do not wear fez hats. So there are some starch differences in what Moorish Americans consider to be Muslims and what real Muslims or Muslims, people that celebrate, that partake in the Islamic faith, would say a Muslim is. Moorish Americans are outside of that. What Rami here is doing, he's trying to conflate the two. And by him doing that, he is doing a disservice to his people because he is just leaving them more confused. Like when the dictionary is speaking of Muslims, when you read that definition is not referring to Moorish Americans. And I'm pretty sure Rami knows that. He's smart enough to know that. And this is the reason why I'm making this video, because him trying to conflate the two is disingenuous, and it is further leaving his people lost. Like that is not the right, correct way to teach people. What you're doing is causing more confusion. I know you guys heard of the term culture vultures. What this brother right here is doing, he's being a religious vulture. A religious vulture, yes, I said a religious vulture. And the reason I'm stating that is because he knows that in that dictionary, when you read that definition, the Muslims or Muslims that are being referred to are the Muslims that follow the Prophet Muhammad. Moorish Americans do not follow the Prophet Muhammad. Their prophet is Noble Drew Ali. So once you step outside of Prophet Muhammad, you are not a Muslim or a Muslim or part of the Islamic faith. Now, Noble Drew Ali came in with his confusion, calling his religion Muslims or Muslims, and all he did was just create more confusion and chaos. And you see the result of that. Over 100 years later, we have people like Rami reading dictionaries trying to conflate the two when there are clearly differences. Moorish Americans have their own house of worship. It is the Moorish Science Temple of America. Muslims that adhere to the Mohammedan faith, that follow Muhammad, they do not go to a Moorish Science Temple. They go to a mosque. They go to Juma every Friday. They don't go to a Moorish Science Temple of America. So what Rami here is doing is being disingenuous because he is trying to conflate the two just because one group of people call themselves Muslims, but that doesn't make them Muslims. They have to follow the 5 pillars of Islam to ever be considered a real Muslim. If you weren't born a Muslim, you have to take a Shahada. No Moorish Americans has taken a Shahada to be a Muslim. And as I stated before, once you walk around and you accept the fact that Noble Drew Ali is a prophet, you're not a Muslim.
A Muslim. Professor Drew is a man who was born with divine power. He was taught the adepts of Egypt, the secrets of destroying germs, da-da-da-da-da. We're not going to get into all that, but I wanted to just put that statement on the record for Noble Drew Ali stating, I am a Muslim or a Muslim. The only difference is the variation in spelling.
Wrong.
And then I wanted to highlight one section before it in section 34, which is titled The Moorish Science Temple of America. And in paragraph 3, I'll just read the paragraph real quick. It says, we of the Moorish Science Temple of America, like countless other American citizens, know that we must live together here in America in harmony, friendship, and goodwill, whatever our race and creed may be. It is only from a purely religious standpoint, it seems at this time, that we differ from a large number of our fellow Americans. We believe in and foster the Muslim religion or the Muslim religion. Do you understand now? Muslim or Muslim, It's the same thing. We believe in the principles of its teachings insofar that they can be adopted to American life. We feel that the Christian religion is all right for those who prefer it. In America, religious freedom is guaranteed all under the Constitution. So that is clear. And then, man, let me get one more. Yeah, one more book. One more book. 1 second. There we go. All right. I had to get this book because it is important to the discussion. And praise Allah. Shout out to the Muslim brothers and sisters that I've been building with. All the Muslim brothers and sisters at Speaker's Corner. Shout out to the brother Sadat and Adnan Rashid, who referred this book to me. A Muslim American Slave, or a Muslim American Slave, The Life of Omar ibn Said. And the reason, 1 second. The reason I wanted to highlight this work in particular is because, well, it's important for a bunch of reasons, but I'm actually working on a book right now. It's going to be done soon. That has a lot of information from this book. It'll be included in the book that I'm working on. But as it pertains to this topic, this discussion, Muslim or Muslim, okay, this was a Muslim American slave, quote unquote American slave, enslaved brother, Omar ibn Said. And this is the only surviving American, quote unquote, slave narrative written in Arabic. Okay, just so you understand. And this was in 1831. And he was enslaved in North Carolina. Also very interesting for Moorish Americans out there. But why I'm focusing on this brother in particular, he is acknowledged as a Muslim, right? Or Muslim. This is his narrative, what he wrote about his life. And the first page, when it's getting into his narrative, the opening page, it says, "The life of Omar bin Said, called Moro, a Fula slave in Fayetteville, North Carolina, owned by Governor Owen, written by himself in 1831, sent to Old Paul or Layman Kebby in New York in 1836. Okay. In 1831, when this was written, Omar ibn Said identified himself as a mortal."
Okay, I must interject. Now, nowhere in that passage that you just read does it say that he identified himself as a mortal. That is something that you are assuming and asserting just to try and make a point. You want to try and tie in mortal and more. That's number one. Number two, you already made it clear that mortal, well, we know mortal means more, and that is a synonym of Muslim. So when they say mortal, they're referring to his religion. They're not referring to his skin color or him being a Moor from Morocco. No, they are referring to his religion. And nowhere in that passage does it say that he refers to himself as that. That is something you literally just made up. How about you read the page again and tell me where you get he called himself that? You literally just made that up. Like, why do you guys do that? You Moorish Americans are absolutely ridiculous. When you try to prove your points, you literally will just make things up. And all you're doing is confusing the people that you're trying to teach. You are doing a disservice service to them by making things up like that.
Moor. But he's also known as an Muslim American slave. So understand the connection between Moorish people and Muslims or Muslims historically. Yes, one and the same. We are the descendants of the Moors that were the golden age of Islam and created Andalus or Al Andalusia, all of that, Cordoba, Toledo, Granada, Alhambra, all of that, all of the wonderful science and math, the culture and the way of life, the religion of Islam that was brought to us by way of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. That way of life, yes, that's our ancestors. That's which is confirmed by Noble Drew Ali.
Now, the sad thing about what Rami just said is you can see the desperation here. You can see that he's just trying so bad to make a connection to the Moors who invaded Spain. Like, Moorish Americans, they have chosen to be Moorish Americans because they were going through an identity crisis. They were looking for an identity. So what these Moorish Americans do, they've read the history on the Moors who invaded Spain, and they want to connect themselves to that so bad. You heard what he just said. Those are our brothers and sisters. Now, yes, some of the Moors who invaded Spain would be considered, quote unquote, Africans. But what he is not realizing is that those particular group of Africans were from North Africa. And us here in America, we are connected to the people from West Africa. Now, this is where the identity crisis comes in, because he wants to a lot of these Moorish Americans. They don't like the history that is taught here, and I don't blame them, because the history that is taught here about our ancestors start in slavery. So they want to look beyond that and go to, grander history, something to be proud of. And that's cool. But what you're doing is you're misleading people by asserting that your bloodline comes from those people that invaded Spain. Now, it might be a possibility that you have some type of blood connection with those people, a possibility, but you are not for certain of that. Your only certainty is that you love the history, so you automatically want to connect yourself to it. You want to say that Morocco is your homeland, when in actuality, if you took a DNA test, you will find out that your blood comes from West Africa and not from North Africa. Furthermore, the Moorish people that you want to connect yourself to, because you love the culture and what they did in Al-Andalus in 711 when they took over, those individuals were Muslims. They practiced the Mohammedan faith of Islam. Not what you Moorish Americans practice now today. It is not the same. So once again, what you're doing is you're trying to conflate and twist and manipulate and connect yourself to these people, and you have no proof of it. And another way you're trying to connect yourself to these people that invaded Spain is through the religion, because you want to say that you follow Islam and they follow Islam. Well, the Islam that they followed is not the same Islam that you're following. They participated in the Mohammedan faith. the Islam that was brought by Prophet Muhammad. There was no Noble Jew Ali then. There was no Moorish Science Temple then. So that was not a thing. What you practice and Noble Jew Ali being your prophet is totally different from what those Moors who invaded Spain practiced. So you cannot make the connection that way. Once again, what you're doing is trying to conflate and connect people in error.
Now, my belief, I don't want to just tell you, so let's pull it out as we close out. Oh, my fault. The questions. We'll get to the questions. We'll get to the questions. Chapter 45, Divine Origin of the Asiatic Nations. Ooh, let's get to it. The Asiatic nations, line 5. The Asiatic nations and countries in North, South, and Central America. The Moorish Americans and Mexicans in North America. Brazilians, Argentinians, Chileans in South America. The Colombians, Nicaraguans, the natives in San Salvador in Central America, etc. All of these, including Moorish Americans and more Mexican brothers and sisters, all of these people are Muslims. And as we have seen earlier, Muslim is just a variant spelling, a transliteration of Muslim or Muslim, you know what I mean? Muslim and Muslim, same thing. So Moorish Americans and all of these people in North, Central, South, really and truly, before the colonization, before the Spanish Inquisition, and before the Papal Bulls and Columbus discovering America, before that, we had a religion. We had a way of life. We were known as something. We were identified by name. Muslims, Muslims, Moors. Come on now.
Excuse me, Rami. That was actually the most ridiculous excerpt that you've read this whole time that you're trying to teach. Now, you just read something out of the Circum-7 Quran, your prophet's book. That statement is absolutely ridiculous. You're saying the people of Mexico, Chile, Nicaragua were all Muslims or Muslim. How can you make a statement like that? You have no idea that all of these people were Muslims or Muslims. In what world do you live in that everyone is the same religion? That is absolutely the dumbest thing that I've heard you read all night. Now, you're so stuck on Noble Jew Ali and his teachings, and you're so clouded by it that you can't even recognize the ridiculousness of what you're reading. It's like you're just reciting something. You're not even sitting back and analyzing it. Like, there is no time on planet Earth where you can name so many different places and say that all of these people were of one religion. That is not how the world works. That is not how people works. And that, my friend, is absolutely ridiculous. You really need to stop it with this nonsense. This is not teaching right here. This is nonsense what you're doing, brother. This is pure nonsense. You just named a bunch of countries off, and you're asserting because you read in that little 90-page pamphlet that Noble Jew Ali wrote, you're assuming that it's correct and that all of these people would have been one religion and that they were called Muslims. It is mind-blowing to me that you actually just read that and that just blew you away. Like, oh yes, this is it. Like, this is called madness. This is ridiculous right here. I can't believe this is what you're teaching. Like, all you're doing is dumbing down your people that you're trying to help. You guys are not Muslims or Muslims. I've stated it over and over and over again, and I gave my reasons. Now, Rami, I know sometime in the future, you're going to see this video, and I want you to change my mind. I want you to prove me wrong in anything that I'm saying in regards to the Islamic faith and religion and having to follow the 5 pillars and Muhammad being the last prophet. And if you follow another prophet, that means you're not a Muslim. I want you to prove me wrong. That last thing that you just read was the most ridiculous thing that I've heard you read. You should not have read that. That was absolutely the dumbest thing that I've heard. You're going to name all of those places and say that all of those people were of one religion? Like, first of all, how would Noble Jew Ali even know that? Number two, history doesn't work like that. History tells you that there were people around the world practicing all type of different religions. There is no time on planet Earth where everyone was the same religion. That is utterly ridiculous. That was the stupidest thing that I've heard you read. Noble Jew Ali should not have wrote that. That is dumb.
Come on now. Come on now. It's in the book, man. Not my opinion, not what I believe, not how I feel about it. Look it up for yourself. See for yourself. If there's something I said that was incorrect, please point it out. I am not above correction. I am doing my best to present the information as accurately as possible. You know what I mean? Praise Allah for this understanding and showing us the right way.
Okay, so I can't take any more of Rami's demonstration here. He was just off. He conflated a lot of things, and the initial point he was making on the whole Muslim or Muslim thing being the same, that he got right because he read that, correctly from the etymology dictionary. But the fact that he just it didn't click in his mind that that very definition isn't referring to Moorish Americans is mind-blowing, because it clearly states that a Muslim or Muslim is somebody who practices the Mohammedan faith, and Moorish Americans do not practice the Mohammedan faith. It's just that simple. So he didn't even need to go into this long video about Muslims or Muslim. He could have just read that and just left it alone, or just left the whole Moorish American part out of it. But he didn't. He tried to conflate and morph together Mohammedan Muslims with Moorish Americans, and he tried to conflate the two religions, and he was in error because the two religions are not the same. And anyone who recognizes Noble Jew Ali as a prophet clearly isn't a Muslim, because Surah 3340 states that Prophet Muhammad is the last. He's the seal of the prophets, the last prophet, and that's it. There's no prophets after him. So if you believe that Noble Jew Ali is a prophet, then you're not a Muslim. You don't partake in Islamic faith. And regardless, it's not as simple as just saying I'm a Muslim and boom, you're a Muslim. No, you have to practice the 5 pillars of Islam. You have to take your Shahada and, give zakat. You have to pray 5 times a day. You have to go to the mosque every Friday. You have to make your pilgrimage to Mecca. And these are all tenets of Islam. And Moorish Americans don't practice any of those things. So they are not Muslims. It's just simply, it is just that simple. So for him to have make this long video, an hour long, and he's just conflating, and it's just ridiculous, because the people that he's teaching clearly don't have the information. So when he puts forth the information like that, conflating, and all he's really doing is a disservice, because he is further confusing the people that he's teaching. Like, he needs to do a better job with really understanding what he is reading, because if he understood what he read when he read the definition of Muslim or Muslim, it stated that a Muslim or Muslim is one that practices the Mohammedan faith, and he knows very well that Moorish Americans don't practice the Mohammedan faith. They practice Noble Jew Ali's faith. They practice Noble Jew Ali's religion, the religion Noble Jew Ali brought forth in 1920. And there's nothing wrong with practicing that religion. What's wrong is trying to conflate the two religions as if they're the same, because you want to tie it back to the history of the Moors who invaded Spain and give yourself, praise of your ancestors. That's what's wrong. When you're trying to conflate and you then turn into a religious vulture, because you are not a Muslim. And like I said, there's about 2 billion Muslims in the world, and they would not accept you as religious brothers. Now, that's not to say that they won't accept you at all, because of course everybody can believe and practice whatever faith they want, but they won't say that you practice their faith, because you don't. Your religion is completely different. You read a circumcision Quran. You don't read the Holy Quran of Mecca that was brought forth by the Prophet Muhammad. You read a 90-page pamphlet that was prepared by Noble Jew Ali. And when I say prepared, because he actually didn't even write it. The very book, the 90-page book that y'all call the circumcision Quran, that is your religious text, is actually the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ mixed with Unto Thee I Grant. And it's actually plagiarized, because Noble Jew Ali doesn't reference those books. But when you go into the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ, and when you go into Unto Thee I Grant's book, both books that were written before the circumcision Quran, you can see the passages that were taken from each book, and Noble Jew Ali gave no credit to those books. So he actually plagiarized the circumcision Quran. So honestly, everything is just wrong about Moorish Americans and their beliefs, and even the sovereign citizen ones who like to drive and travel and all this other nonsense. It's all a bunch of confusion, and it will not help your life. Rami Salaam Al, stop with the conflating, because you are in error when you do that. Okay, so now what you're seeing on the screen is a surah from the Quran, and it clearly states that the Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet, point blank period. So if he's the last prophet, how could there be a quote unquote prophet, Noble Jew Ali? It goes against the very teachings of the Quran. There is no prophet after Prophet Muhammad. So it is clear, if you believe in a prophet after Prophet Muhammad, you are not a Muslim or a Muslim. You do not subscribe to the Mohammedan faith. You have stepped outside of that faith. And for Noble Jew Ali to call himself a prophet, even if he did at one point subscribe to the Mohammedan faith, once he called himself a prophet, he has then stepped outside of the Mohammedan faith, and he is no longer a believer. He is no longer a Muslim. That's it. And anybody else, and anyone that follows him, anyone that follows the man and believes that he, Noble Jew Ali, is a prophet, is not part of the Islamic / Mohammedan faith. It is that simple. So Rami, please stop trying to conflate the two. Noble Jew Ali came and started a new religion. That new religion now is outside of the Islamic faith. He deemed himself a prophet. He is going against the very Quran. It clearly says that Muhammad is the last prophet. There are no prophets after him. Anybody claiming to be a prophet after him is stepping outside of the Islamic faith. So all of you guys following Noble Jew Ali are not Muslims. So please stop it. Stop conflating. Stop further confusing people. It is not helping. All it is doing is hurting the mental of Moorish Americans when they walk around thinking that they're actually Muslims or Muslims and that they're connected with actual people that follow the Mohammedan faith. Muslims that follow the Mohammedan faith do not look at Moorish Americans as religious brothers because they are not following the same religion. It is not the same. So just because you read a definition in the dictionary and it says Muslims and Muslims are the same things, yes, they are the same things, but you guys, Moorish Americans, are not Muslims nor Muslims. Just because Noble Jew Ali said that you guys are doesn't mean that you truly are, because in the Islamic faith, the Mohammedan faith, the last prophet, according to the Holy Quran of Mecca, Surah 33, verse 40, the last prophet is Prophet Muhammad. No questions asked. Now, what we have here is just some commentary from Muslim scholars on verse 3340. And what is explaining is that as in regards to the Islamic faith, the Mohammedan faith, anybody who claims to be a prophet after Prophet Muhammad, they will be considered a false prophet. It is a false claim to prophethood. So, in essence, Noble Jew Ali would be considered a false prophet because there are no prophets after the Prophet Muhammad in the Islamic faith, in the Mohammedan faith. So, Moorish Americans are not Moors or Muslims because they follow a false prophet, and that is coming from Islamic scholars.